Kia.
Hey.
Hi.
We've had so much fun over the last couple of years communicating through a computer.
Yes.
Staring at each
Virtually
other.
speaking.
She's here with us today.
All right,
Great.
live in
Yeah.
person, like I can touch
Yeah.
you.
I love it.
No masks.
Fresh on a flight from Canada, which is amazing. Process, not
Process. But I'll put my U.S. spin on it. Process.
Love it. The world of marketing
Yes.
and everything that you and your organization does has been so impactful to us as an organization. And I'm sure a lot of your other clients and organizations that you work with have probably feel the same way. Navigating the pandemic from in office, out of office, how to remain in touch with our clients, how to remain in touch with each other, staring into, a camera, look up, look down, look straight, how to do all of that
You're on
stuff.
mute.
You're on mute.
Yes, you're
That's a
on
big
mute.
one.
Yes,
You even have
yeah.
mugs that say on your mute, making a joke. It's just unreal of things that have happened. And, as the world opens up and we come back to some sense of normalcy, we wanted to really sit down and, talk to you about how your company pivoted, how you help other companies pivot now that things are coming back to some sense of normal, right? Because it'll never be the same. Mm-hmm. How do you incorporate the best of both worlds, right? We've learned so many great things from a communication standpoint. Mm-hmm. How do we take that and incorporate it and go forward? And we just thought that this would be a great opportunity, James and I, to sit down and, have a conversation about it. What is life like for you? I mean, you're in Canada. Obviously right now we're in the US. We know our experience, but what is your experience like just as an individual being in a different country and going through the pandemic?
Great question. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here and represent. But yeah, Canada's been really strict. The masks are coming off shortly, that kind of thing, but are they really? Not really. Like you spoke to, we'll never be the same. And so this has changed the digital world. It really has changed, all that digital stuff was already there, already existed, as you know, James, especially. It's just really accelerated everything and brought it to market quicker than maybe some people thought it would. And so people need, both personally and professionally to have a different brand, to have a different look, to have a digital footprint, if you will. Pivot, you use that word pivot. We've heard that a lot over the last couple of years. What's the experience like online versus, the in-person? So, I don't think there's been much difference between Canada and the US, other than we can't travel, right? We can now with a lot of restrictions, right? And I think that's the same in the digital world. There's still restrictions, right? There's security issues, there's the digital exhaustion. You talked about, the screen, the up, the down, how do I look? What is my attire like? All that kind of thing. So
it's overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
There's an element of detail you didn't consider so much when you were in person, because maybe, it's interesting because obviously the detail should have been managed and paid attention to because you were in person, but it's just people are very, I've noticed maybe more self-aware, self-conscious as they're on screen, on camera, rather than in person. It's that, for whatever reason, it's that barrier, and it's an interesting dynamic that has to be dealt with.
When speaking and being in conversation, you really talk a lot about body language, right? You have people that talk with their hands, and you have to move around, and there's a lot of different things. When you're virtual and on camera, people read things a little bit different. Like if someone's looking down and taking notes, in a meeting live, people understand the person is taking notes, so you can see it. When you're working and presenting or in a meeting, you're looking down, people look at it as being rude.
Right, and that you're distracted, that you're not hearing what they're saying.
And paying attention, and that takes time to really realize, or to say to someone, hey, listen, I'm engaged, I'm paying attention, I'm just writing down a few notes, with the meeting and stuff. Did you find that people needed to be coached that way to make sure that they maintain a level of engagement with their internal team or external?
That is a great point, Kia. Absolutely. And we used to coach people to do that even in live meetings, to say, hey, I'm just trying to capture what you've talked about, And so if you don't mind, I'm going to take some notes. So I think asking your audience, whoever it is, whether it's a one-on-one, whether it's a group, hey, would you mind if I just took some notes here about what we're chatting about? Get their buy-in in advance. And then we coach people on that as well. So not just within your meeting, but we tell people because, coming back to what you said, James, in terms of people are more aware of details, they are, and they're also not. They have to be reminded of the details. What do I mean by that? The attire.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're at home, that doesn't mean you wear your sweatshirt and your ball cap and you've got dirty hair.
A little guilty minus the dirty hair.
Right? Oh, there's dry shampoo for that. there's a solution for that. Come on. But you're right. And I mean, I think we do that internally.
Yes.
With our internal people.
That's correct.
Right? But I've seen people doing it externally and not being mindful of their background. I mean, they're in their bedroom because that's their office space and they've got their bed unmade and you're seeing into their bedroom. And, I'm not here to judge. However, when you're presenting yourself, you need to be as aware of your background as you were aware of your stuff when you went into a client's office. Would you go running in there with a disaster? Not likely.
No.
Right.
So could you explain why that's so important? Like it makes sense, right? What you just said. And it's like, you're right. You see the pillowcase or the bed is unmade or
right.
whatever that it's behind the scenes when you're rushing for a meeting. Like the obvious why is probably there, but can you explain like why from a branding standpoint or perception standpoint when people see that during a presentation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first of all, how do you feel going in? When you're in your pajamas or your comfies or the clothes you just came from the gym in, what are you feeling? You're not feeling all together. You're feeling a little messy, a little dirty,
Not game time ready.
Not game time ready, exactly. So you need to feel confident. You need to feel put together so that you can represent your company and represent yourself, right? Differently. So, and I think the first impression, especially, from a sales perspective, if this is a prospect or a suspect or it's a longtime client, that you haven't let things slip. And that you as a person haven't let things slip, but you as the company you're representing has got it all together. They're organized. They've thought through what their presentation is, what their outfit is, the whole thing, the whole package.
The whole thing with using a background.
Yes.
Right? People use Teams, Zooms, GoToMeeting. From a marketing perspective, what do you think about all the different types of backgrounds? Like, should there be consistency in the background? Should it be uniform? Or, should James be, at Rivera Maya out in Mexico with the background and the palm trees? What do you think about that? Is there consistency within the organization?
That's a great question. So a lot of companies that we've worked with and are working with, we create a background for them and we make it consistent. Now, having said that, and we add their logo to it, obviously, their brand. But having said that, there can almost be different backgrounds. So say IT department or marketing department or,
speak more to their language.
Speak more to their language.
Right?
Exactly. And it could just showcase the different facets of that business. But as long as the logo is the same, obviously, the company you're representing, and and like you said, there's some sort of consistency, right? I think it's super important. And then everybody's just wearing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like from a background perspective, it's like FedEx. Like I'm going to do shout out to FedEx or UPS or any company, large organization like that. What do they wear? You know a UPS guy because he has a brown suit on, right? You know a FedEx guy because he's got a purple, or lady that has a purple golf shirt on. And I'm not saying have company outfits, but I think that the background is key because it's not distracting and it's not taking away, from the presentation. Because if I walk into a call with somebody and they've got a bed in the background that's unmade, I'm distracted for a few minutes thinking, what is that?
Because you're focusing on what the image and everything is behind there.
Exactly.
Also, too, I think the perception drops a level a little bit in terms of, how maybe, the validity and the, how serious do you take that call if the environment is such. But I'm curious to talk about, have you seen companies that have put more of a detail on their presentation materials and their marketing assets through the onset of the pandemic as compared to prior to?
Great question, James. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you guys, just a shout out to you guys and what you're doing in your marketing and everything. I mean, you guys are detail oriented. You are meticulous. You are, seen as such a leader in your space. You are the leader in your space. So yes, you have even ramped that up. Right?
Yeah,
and I mean, you're already excellent, and you're obsessed with excellence.
Well, that's what we
right?
go by, right?
Absolutely. But so to your point, yes, absolutely. People have thought, oh dear, we really got to ramp this up. I mean, we've had companies who don't believe in, they're old school. They don't even understand or believe in the metrics behind digital.
Right.
And they're like, uh-oh. We have to do this.
Yeah, I think, coming on board with Atlantic, I think, one of the key focuses across all the different campaigns and projects that we've launched in the few years that I've been here is make sure it comes off as we do it on purpose. Like it needs to be
Absolutely.
with a vision and a reason why behind
Yes.
it.
Intention.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the education piece too, right? So
Yes.
as an individual who's not in marketing and not understanding the why behind it, when you have someone who slows down and explains to you why the consistency in content is important, the imaging is very important from a perception, not just externally, but internally.
Absolutely.
It ties it all together that it is your singular brand, but it is the brand of the organization. And James hones in a lot about even the coloring in our logo.
Absolutely.
Right? The blue is a blue for a specific reason, the designated background of how the logo looks with a black background, with a white background. And having that education and having everyone partake in it is all a part of it, especially in the world of digital media, which now we're talking so much about. Like, it has been here. It has been here. But it's so relevant now because we're so dependent on technology in general that it's something that we all have to be a part of inside the organization. And, we have, every company has challenges on it and really being focused on it as an organization. Let's talk about events.
Yeah. Let's.
So, 2 years ago, we're 2 years officially.
2 years
right?
in March.
Because, it's almost, it doesn't seem like it's 2 years, it seems like it's 4.
It's true.
The notion of going out for cocktails or sitting in a room and being able to have a dialogue and exchange like we're having now seems so long ago. You had to go from in-person to remote.
Yeah.
Engagement. How do you do that successfully? How did you coach people to make that transition? Like for us, we're a very in-person organization. What we do is in person. We host things in person. We're at forums, conferences, we're in meetings. We had to pivot. Can you share with us like some of your experiences you've seen with people that have gone through those kind of things and how you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are an in-person company, and we've hosted several of your events, including your internal awards and all of those things. So the key for us was coach them on the experience. So how do you take the in-person experience and make it the online experience and have something similar? So you keep the people engaged. They're not off on their phones or turning their cameras off and buzzing into the back. So how we've done that is just an online Zoom event or Teams event or whatever is have polls, right? So interject with polls, get the mind thinking, get them engaged, right? Talk about what the results are, share them with the group. And that might seem really basic, but it's not, because it does keep the person engaged. We've brought in comedians. We add music at the outset or throughout. And again, people always comment, hey, I love the music. That's great music.
Do you accept requests?
We accept requests, absolutely. For instance, doing little spoofs with staff internally.
We got that.
You got it.
We got our executive management team pretty good on that one.
Yeah, that was so fantastic. So, did I steal it from the Ellen Show? Maybe. But doing stuff like that, right? Just making it fun, breaking the seal with people, because people on camera are afraid. They really are afraid. They're afraid to be authentic. They're afraid to be real, because let's be honest, it's a different animal. It really, really is.
You know, like you talk about like being on camera is afraid, but just in interacting in public, there's that element of public speaking. I heard a statistic. I'm not sure if it still holds true, but more people are afraid of public speaking than death itself. So
isn't that wild?
If you were to think about it, more people would rather be in a casket than give a eulogy at a funeral. Like, that doesn't even make sense. It's so counterintuitive, but it's true. And the camera, being on screen, I think people were just like, maybe because there wasn't a gradual increase, like you said, it accelerated the process to to going virtual, because it was just a boom. All right, we're going remote. We're out. And it was just people were forced into it and really had to step out of their comfort zone to be able to be successful. So with that, I think it's an interesting. What have you seen going back, with events and things like that, and even just one-on-one, representative to client meetings and things like that? What have you seen as, aside from the backgrounds and the projection of, the presentation, but what have you seen maybe that has been a level of success for sales professionals in their meetings? Like what separates a successful virtual meeting to not?
That's a really great question. And one of the things we're doing with a lot of these, our clients, is coaching them on how to do a digital presentation so that it does set it apart. So they're not walking in with a PowerPoint and just slide slapping the whole time. So to your point, doing live demos, literally, like in some cases, even in this hybrid work environment, is going to the office. And if we're talking the copier world or we're talking whatever world, just giving them a live demo right there. Whether it even just be they're doing a FaceTime, might not even be a Zoom, right? And just capturing that, making sure that their PowerPoint slides are engaging. If they are using PowerPoint slides, it's not text heavy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you engage? Like, I understand like the text, but is it images? Is it colors? Is it graphics? Like, how do you get engagement?
100%. It is all of those things, and it's not text heavy at all. You're talking to it, right? You want to make sure the client is involved in it. Video is key. Video's the same. If you're posting on LinkedIn, what are people more likely to look at? A text thing or a video? Educate. You're not selling. You want to educate your customer and your client.
We're going to put a pin in that in a minute, but yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Like the complete, as I always call it, the complete post and its social media content and things like that. There's so many different layers to a successful social media campaign and things like that. But staying with what the success of a meeting, an aspect that we were able to be a little bit flexible on is our virtual workplace tour.
Yes.
So it implements presentation. It brings in and allows us to implement a presentation. It talks about virtual, and then obviously a demo, but then also shows the breadth and the wide ranging of our
company. And it engages the person on the other side too.
Absolutely.
Right.
And to your point about the engagement as well, is bringing other people into it.
Yeah.
Right? So, Kia, she's our subject matter expert on X. So-and-so's a subject matter on X. So it's not just you and the other people. You're bringing in different layers.
And then going further past into that is, on the client end.
Yes.
Making sure that the right people are in the meeting on their end as well. That we can, make sure that we can get a decision maker there in the room, the contact in the room on our side, our subject matter expert with the representative. So there's and setting the criteria for the meeting as well, as understanding. We'll talk whether making sure expectations are met, whether we're going to do a review of current technology that we're handling, or going forward and not talking about where we're going, just being progressive and forward thinking about what else we can help you, solutions we can provide you.
Absolutely, and that is so key, because if you don't get the key stakeholders on the phone call the first time on the Zoom call, you may not get them another time. You might not get another opportunity. So make sure you set the criteria, the objectives of the client up front, and then even go beyond that, right? And if you've got other people deeper in the account, reach out to them and find out, what are some key things that I need to have prepared.
So with all of that, and from a presentation standpoint, which we're talking quite a bit about now because it's very relevant, right?
Absolutely.
Doing something in person versus doing something virtually, and then finding a balance between the two. You yourself, you're a person of pace.
Yes.
Right, you're from Canada, but I think you're from New York, because that patience just isn't there. Move out of the way.
Yeah, get out of here.
Trying to figure out, from your view, what is that perfect meeting And what I mean by that is it 15 minutes? Is it 30 minutes, an hour? You think about people's attention spans.
Absolutely.
Right? Even when you do a company communication, is it a 30-minute meeting? Sometimes trainings have to go 2 or 3 hours. But where's that balance, or is it based on the content of the meeting?
It's a great question, but I am all about speed, as you said,
Yes.
right? I think what people want to know, first of all, if you're meeting with me and you request a meeting with me, tell me how long it's going to be.
Set the stage right away.
Set the stage right away. But I think 30 minutes is kind of that sweet spot, especially, again, depending on the objective of the call, right? Maybe it's 15 minutes. But make it 30 and stick to it. And then allow the client as well to see an agenda in advance.
Take that extra step, slow down, take the steps, make sure that the understanding is there.
Yes, and ask, is there anything you'd like to cover in this meeting that I haven't? Again, in advance. Because guess what? If they say, well, we'd like to cover this, then you've got the opportunity to extend that meeting to 60 minutes, right? Bring more people on the call.
And also, too, it points out where their mind is.
Absolutely.
It may be
The
your
gaps.
agenda, you're going to, go into a one direction, but they're looking to pull you in another direction, and you want
Yes.
to serve their benefit.
Absolutely, and gives you more opportunity, right, within the account.
How does an organization incorporate what they've learned and what they've done, right? So, the digital space, very important. We adapted to being hybrid. How do you bring the two together, right? Like we've learned how to present,
Yes.
right? We've learned the position of the head and the body gestures and all of that stuff, and even speaking with our hands on camera as well. Now you come back to bringing people back together, because I think people do want to come together based on their comfort level. Incorporating it all, like not losing what was 2 years ago versus what's happened over the last 2 years, and bring it into the future. How does an organization tie all of that together?
That's a great question. Honestly, communication and collaboration and feedback. Because talk to different people. What are you doing? How does this work for you? And then getting feedback from other like-minded people who are doing it and doing it well. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Does it matter the industry?
I don't think it matters the industry, right? I mean, I'm more focused on a sales role here, but not necessarily. Because, and I also think, be respectful of other people's opinions on things in terms of COVID, right?
Great point.
Because I might be, not comfortable meeting with you, but I want to meet with you. And I'd rather do it live than on Zoom, but I wear a mask. So style shift. You have to be willing to style shift. If I'm meeting with you, James, and you're more comfortable with a mask on, I'm going to wear a mask to respect you, even if I think masks are crazy.
Right, because you have to mirror.
You have to mirror, you do. And so just read and react and style shift, and don't be stuck in your ways, right? And again, collaborate and communicate and share feedback with one another, and really care about what the other person thinks, right? Put others ahead of yourself. It's that old adage, right? Like, you're just going to get more that way.
Because of the sensitivity, not being
Absolutely
unintentionally selfish, but just be able even to ask the question.
Absolutely.
What are you most comfortable with being something that I think we sometimes lose focus on, because people do
Absolutely.
have their different comforts.
Absolutely.
I think also, too, it just benefits you to cater to the client. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
if why start the process even with a struggle? You know what I mean? So
Right.
just
100%.
But then also, too, now that these capabilities have been achieved over the last 2 years, these weapons are in the arsenal. You know what I mean? We don't need to do in person if we don't have to. And we've seen schedules being able to fill up way more in terms of volume with meetings. If they can be virtual, the travel time that's not there anymore can be 2 extra meetings. You know what I mean? So
100%.
So it's all based on what
But I
serves
think
you
you
best.
would agree, pace inside of that is hard, right?
It
Because
is.
the whole thing with the virtual meeting, you find that you don't have any empty space in your calendar
It's so
either,
true.
right? Because you're transitioning, logging off, logging on, logging off, logging on, logging off, logging on. And that in itself is a task in
Yeah.
itself.
It is.
Like,
It is.
It's,
And that digital exhaustion I spoke of, right? You have
It
to
is
you have to
exhausting.
keep that in mind.
There's definitely a middle ground, but I'm just saying, say it's a 30-minute commute to and from a client.
you don't have the windshield time.
Right. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? That's potentially a legit, we talked about that sweet spot of a half hour, that's a meeting, even if, and gives you a buffer in between, right? So, so I think like it can be a best of both worlds, and I think that's really what I think comes out of COVID and the pandemic as we, come back to normalcy, as we were seeing, in gradual steps, are the achievements that we've been able to, accumulate within an organization, and these different policies and procedures that we've now seen success with. I think we can continue to implement them and keep them in the back burner if needed. Right?
Absolutely.
To see what's there. It's just an interesting dynamic with everything that's been transpiring and going on. Even like yourself, knowing you virtually now, like you said, I could actually touch you, I could feel you. Like, thank goodness you're here in front of us. The element that you bring to our own meetings and getting our team comfortable, experiencing the music, and then, you turn your camera on. It's like, Melissa, oh my God, look at you.
You're live, you're real.
I can't believe it, because like knowing your voice and stuff like that, the virtual connection that we've all been able to like build is just amazing. And it's not just our organization, I'm sure it's other organizations too, because you work with so many different diverse organizations too. Pretty similar to what you experienced with us?
Yeah, very similar. The thing is though, you guys are ahead of the pack. You really are ahead of the pack. And I'm not saying that because I'm here. You guys just do such a great job. And you know what? Shout out to Larry. I mean, Larry is just so great at the internal communication and the external communication. And you said I've brought stuff to your meetings. Well, you guys have brought stuff to my world, right? Just seeing how you guys communicate, because you were all live before, and now it's like, whoa, we have to do another awards thing, and we have to do this back online. Like, how do we make it fun? And let's be honest, Larry wants it,
right
bing
away.
bong bing as
like,
well.
I'm done. It's over. We're going to the restaurant. We're going to get tents. We're going to come together.
Absolutely. So, you know what? I try to, with each of the companies I work with, try and take pieces of that and share with other companies what you guys are doing without saying it's you guys are doing it, and vice versa. Bring that to you guys as well, right? Because let's be honest, okay? And this isn't a knock to millennials, but millennials don't want to do in-person stuff.
They have more independent, free time.
Absolutely. You talked about the commute, right? They don't want to be driving for 2 hours, 3 hours. They're all about pace as well.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just marrying those two things together, and we have hybrid, right?
Incorporating the two.
Yeah, incorporating the two.
I speak to my own children about that, and they go, that's a waste of time. I can just do this now, and I can do that. When I even said, we need to get a dictionary. You gotta, they're like, what's a dictionary? I said, a dictionary.
Absolutely.
And then I said the other word, encyclopedia. Encyclopedia? You mean Google? Bing?
Yes.
No, an encyclopedia. They don't know.
That's awesome.
But it contributes to that, right? Because now with technology and having everything in your hand on demand, you get it right away.
Absolutely.
The mindset is just a little bit different. And I think for us that a lot further along in our careers, we've had so many different experiences, and it's not readily available. We have to pivot to be able to understand and how information is received, how people want to be marketed to, how they want to receive information. It challenges us too, and it challenges us to be relevant.
Absolutely. And you know what, we were kind of talking about that earlier, but that older generation, those business leaders that have all had to come up to speed with this new reality, and then their need for marketing. Because a lot of people have said, man, my business really suffered during COVID. But so many are like, no, this accelerated my business forward. And how can you guys help us? How can we get there? So I think it's scary to say, but it's life, right? Everything in life, whether it's a negative, I believe always turns into an opportunity and a positive. And so it's perspective. How are you taking what we've just gone through as a company, as a person, the last 2 years, and instead of saying, well, this was awful, what a waste of time this was, how can you use it as just a jumping off point into this is our new world? Whoa, look at the opportunities that it's afforded us.
Well, I mean, point in case here today,
here we are.
right? You know what I mean?
100%.
3 years ago, would Atlantic have ever thought of podcasts and things like that? It probably maybe it would have gotten there eventually. I would have said just because of the track that we typically are on. But this idea was spawned from another event that we had in this very building, you know, and we just kind of just put it on a blank canvas and said, all right, we'll create it. And boom, you know, we were able to utilize the resources that were never really afforded to us, or they were always afforded to us, but never needed to be, right?
Right.
They were never put in front of us, we need this.
Right. It really forced us to accelerate the conversation.
Absolutely.
Of like, this is where we need to go. Here are the reasons why. How do we show ourselves in a different way?
Absolutely.
And really have a touch to what is going on in the world in general, right? And incorporate that into everything that we do, not just from an organization of what we do and how we service our clients, but for our internal employees too. Because a lot of this stuff has to do with like retaining your employees, bringing on new talent. It's all interconnected. You know, as you bring new talent on that are younger, that are looking for different things, like how do we remain relevant as an organization, which James talks about a lot, just making sure that we have a level of awareness, social responsibility, all those different dynamics of things that I think during this time it's caused us to slow down and to really think. And to green light situations inside of our conference room with our board.
All the Jamesisms. It's the slow down to speed up, right?
Correct.
Slow down to speed up.
Right.
And
It is, and it's been a joy because there's so much behind it and its purpose behind it. It's just making sure that people like really understand why we're doing things the way that we're doing. And we always know about marketing and we know about branding, however you want to be seen, whether it's the type of dress you wear or the jacket, or for us, what type of pocketbook or whatever type of color of lip gloss we want to wear. Now we can wear lip gloss.
Yes, we can wear lip gloss.
Because a mask was totally different. Shoes, we wear shoes now.
Yes.
Not our Uggs.
Our Crocs.
So you think about our branding and everything inside of it, it really ties everything together.
It really does. It really does.
Right? What do you think, James? Correct?
Of course, you know, especially from a marketing side, but there's not a lot that's an accident in terms of presentations and branding and stuff like that. A lot of things are on purpose, right?
It can't be an accident, right? Almost. You want to be intentional, right?
Well, of course, because there's just so much time and thought that goes into it, and and again, you know, if it's an accident, it might be seen as a negative. More times than not, it would be seen as negative. You're talking about, you know, in the beginning of our conversation, the bedspread behind you is a mess. That was an accident, seen as a negative. But the intentionality of making the bed, if you know, or getting out of the bedroom altogether, that intentionality of creating that professional environment, right? So how you put yourself forward, there's got to be intentionality behind it.
100%.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For both of you. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. Camera on, camera off.
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad you asked. Because earlier I was thinking of that. You know, one of the things Rick, the owner of our company, says all the time is you need to have a policy in place in your office. Start in your office with your internal people. Cameras on.
I agree.
Because we want to see you, right? It keeps that engagement level. It doesn't let people slip through the cracks, hopefully.
Yeah, right.
The other side of that is let's be honest, okay? Is Jerry at your office in bed and he's just turned on his camera and you have a meeting at 10 o'clock, meanwhile he's been sleeping and you're supposed to start at 8? There's a bit of an accountability thing. And I'm not, because here's the thing, the beautiful part of working from home is the flexibility. Let's be honest, right? And you know what? You don't need to micromanage your employees if they're doing the right thing. Right? And they're getting their work done. However, if you don't have fences around things, people will just go crazy. And again, it's back to, I want to see your face.
That's where I was going to go.
I want to see you. I
want to see you. We used to talk at the water cooler. Now it's like, oh my gosh, maybe we
I
only
don't want to talk to your initials.
100%.
Because that's what you like really
100%.
say. What about presentation? Camera on, camera off. If the person you're presenting to has the camera off, do you leave the camera on or do you mirror? That's a tough one.
I keep camera on.
You keep camera on.
Yeah, I personally, I'm with you, James. I say keep the camera on because guess what? Maybe they're uncomfortable with their own self or their background and you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. However, you want to be real to them, right?
Is it okay to ask for them to turn the camera on?
I have.
I'm talking about etiquette. Well, yeah, I mean, you're fearless, of course. My camera's on. I did my hair. Listen, I'm here. Come on.
Yeah. I did my hair today.
In the point that you made, maybe I wouldn't ask because maybe they're in a situation where, you know, again, that flexibility, right? You know, we're talking, you know, real life meets professional life, you know.
Yes.
You know, for me, speaking, personally, I have a young daughter, and just on her school schedule, it's really inconvenient. So
Yes,
she's home
yes.
for half of the day in the afternoon. So potentially she's in the background if I'm in the middle of something, but I need to take a call. Maybe Kia would call me. So if it's inappropriate that my camera's on, I'll go
You'll
forward and
comment, so
say,
maybe
listen,
say
I got to
something,
stay
right?
off for a minute, but
Right.
I'm here.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would ask because you don't know what their scenario is, and maybe
Right.
it's a personal thing that they don't need to divulge. So
And you know what, to be honest with you, I find with a lot of people who don't put theirs on, they'll automatically just tell you why.
Yeah.
Because they kind of
they
feel guilty.
volunteer
it. Yep.
They volunteer it. They'll say, well, you know what, I have such a bad hair day today, or my background is a disaster, or my child is home today, sick, or my dog is out of control, whatever it is, right? And I respect that. Hey, if you don't want your camera on, you don't want it on. But the rule in our office is you need to have your camera on.
The camera is on.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different things you can do with all the different platforms.
Yes.
Like I just learned something in Teams, and you're giving a presentation. So you have a PowerPoint that's inside of the background. You can move yourself like in the middle in like a presentation mode. Like what's the right, like
You can do that in Zoom too.
like you're in the middle and you're presenting in the background and all that other stuff. Like, is that something that's great to use?
Do you know what? We just started using it, and it's a really cool feature because it makes the background big, right? So it takes up the whole screen, and you're kind of this floating human, and you can put yourself wherever, but it makes it more real. It makes it like feel like you're in the zone, right? You're there, as opposed to it's a Zoom call or it's a Teams call.
I would say that, especially now speaking from internally right now, putting my Atlantic hat back on and saying, like, if I were to, James, what's your opinion of having our sales team utilize that tool? Training would definitely need to be, it at the forefront of it to make sure that we're locked in on the nuance of it, of the details of it, of the little details that might affect the overall quality of the presentation. So definitely I would say utilize that because it just, again, it shows a little bit more of a flex of the muscle of how we leverage technology to our clients and be able to present, right? But you, again, that could turn on its face on you if you don't utilize it to the full capacity, but you not even to full capacity, but you don't utilize it correctly.
Right.
It kind of like, all right, what are you guys doing?
Yes.
So I definitely think I would say yes, go forward and do it, but make sure that you're well versed, you're well practiced with it as well.
Bingo. Don't try anything new on an outside person. Try it, know it, because James, to your point, one of the things it can't do is play a video. So if you want to play a video within a presentation and you're in that mode, you can't play the video. You have to jump out to play the video.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's where the training comes in to make sure that you're able
that
to do
nuance
it.
of
Exactly.
each of the different features of an app or a site,
Yes.
whatever it is.
That
making
brings
sure.
up something. And I was a part of a presentation.
Yeah.
So say your intent is to do that, and you set it up right, and it doesn't work. What do?
You pivot.
And say, I apologize, the video isn't working, and move on? Do you pause until they get the video work? Because that's happened to everyone.
Of course
it's
it
like
has.
that
Happened
fear.
before the pandemic, so I don't think that's
Yeah,
anything
well, yeah,
different.
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
People forget, right?
Yeah.
Because
They
now
do.
you're like here.
But
like,
people's
what do you do?
tolerance is this big too.
Right, so people don't have patience. It doesn't work. Like
I
what
say you
do we do?
cut bait and just kind of read and react in the moment, right? If
Okay.
you can quickly get the video up without making them wait. I just know because I'm a pace-oriented person, I hate making people wait, and I hate when mistakes happen. But you know what? We all have them happen, right? So just laugh it off and move along. And if it's going to be time-consuming, move to the next thing, right? And maybe it gives you a follow-up with the client. Hey, something that I couldn't show you today, but I wanted to share with you is X. You know?
I learned that the hard way. I was doing a conference presentation, and I wasn't driving. The presentation was no video, but the presentation stopped. And then I kind of paused, and the person who was hosting it, they commented, and I said, well, what would you like me to do? Would you like me to continue, like to do this? And it took time. And I said, you know what, I'll speak to the slides, but here's the mistake I made, trying to become paperless. I didn't print my slides.
Oh, shoot.
So I had to kind of do it from memory, and all inside of my mind, I kept thinking, well, did I miss this? Did I miss that? Now, there were some things that James and I had went through beforehand, I remembered, but in that moment, it was like, okay, what do you do? Because people
Yes.
go through that. Do you take the time out? Do you go? Is it time sensitive? How to move on from it? So
You know-
you're saying it's okay.
It is. And one of the things it's making me think of is what we do with our clients a lot of time is because we host webinars for them, right? So they're bringing their clients on and they want it to be seamless. And that's why they come to us, because we we account for all those things that could happen. And again, it's not a perfect world, but we account for it. But what we do is we do a virtual checklist. Do you have your presentation printed out? What's your cell number? So that if you drop, I can text you. Who's going to be a backup? Do you have a backup plan, period? Like it's a backup and discovery,
Right,
or just,
right.
you know what I'm doing, recovery plan. And just having a checklist for all the people, because you know what? As many Zooms and as many Teams that we've all been on, people aren't experts.
Yes.
And I've learned that. It's like where we think it's a no-brainer because we do a million of them, they haven't. So how do we make it easy for you? Here's a checklist. These are things you should consider, but we've got your back. But you know what? And then allow for those things that are going to happen, because they're going to happen. It's reality.
So for us, we're fortunate because you coach us through it. You got us to kind of laugh about it and move on, even if we take too long and we're long-winded. So that coaching behind the scenes is also very good when doing our virtual meetings with everything that happens. Something that was like really good when we did, it was awards night.
Yeah.
And the whole employee engagement and making that event like really, really great for our staff members. You added 2 elements into that presentation, right? The spoof on the executive management team, which was hilarious. And the second piece was the ending and the credits. Where did that idea come from? Could you explain like what you did? And it's not just that something that you did for Atlantic, but you've done from other clients.
Yeah, thank you. That was a fun event. And I mean, when we're asked to do those virtual things, it's like, okay, how can we make this? And I think, James, you were on the call when we were planning it, and we said, let's make it a red carpet event. So when you think red carpet, you just kind of take the whole thing into consideration, right? It's a red carpet. Well, okay, is it like the Grammys? Yeah, okay, it's like the Grammys. They're getting awards. Oh, what happens? We do credits, like in the movies, right? So let's make it fun, and let's recognize the people. Because you know what? Everybody wants to be recognized. Everybody wants a piece of it. Let's not make it seem like this is just the executive management team. This is just the marketing thing. This is just all about the salespeople. No, it's about everyone. And so often we'll say, give us all your people. Let us recognize all your folks. Even that small credits thing, which we thought was a small detail, ended up being a huge detail for so many people.
It was.
Right? And so celebrate everyone, however it is, and that gets engagement. Mention that janitor in your office who is this quiet guy that never gets recognized, right? Like mention him, and that's all it takes. It's those simple things. And you know what? We're a team and we collaborate. And one of the things we do is I'll say, hey guys, I'm hosting this thing for Atlantic. And I thought about maybe doing this and this and this. What do you think? How do you think that's going to work? And what are your ideas? And man, when you've got like 17, 18, 20, 25 people, even 5 people, 2 people, 3 people, you're going to get more ideas, right? And then I pick up things from other meetings I'm in and different things. And it just makes for a great engagement tool for online.
That communication and collaboration, where you first started out talking about how important it is with all of that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Marketing, branding, complication,
yeah.
so many different components of it, uniformity. I mean, there's so many different dynamics inside of it all. I mean, it's been fantastic working with you over the last, it's not just the 2 years, but for the extended period of time that our organizations have had a relationship, and seeing our team grow in partnership with you and everyone else, and just really helping us, and James, James, you've been with us, 2 years now?
Yep, this is into my 3rd year now.
Yeah,
wow.
Going into the 3rd year, and it's really changed the dynamics of who we are and making us even more relevant, and more importantly, getting buy-in from everyone within our organization and being able to understand why the consistency and the branding and everything, we're all a part of a whole. And we represent each other every single day from a professional standpoint.
100%.
And then the balance between personal social media and with corporate social media, making sure that the balance is there as well. So.
Well, thank you. You guys are just such a pleasure to work with.
Thank you.
I just love you guys. It's like one of your sales guys said to me a couple weeks ago on a call. He's like, are you one of us now? Yeah. and you know what? I feel like one of you guys, right?
Absolutely.
And what a neat experience that we can work for 2 different companies, but still feel like we're one big happy family, right?
Yeah,
so
which is
thank
amazing.
you.
I mean,
It is
essentially,
amazing.
I'm the only I'm the only one in Atlantic with marketing on their business card, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, you're the team. You're my team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
the team back at Into, shout out to everybody there, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it totally has. Thank you. It's so good to see you live again. I'm going to touch you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.